It's like I don't care about nothing, man. Yeah.
All right, so now we are on page 7. Page 7 is actually a little foldable that's already been put in for you by my lovely TA. So I got to make sure to give her a shout out and say thank you. With this one, we are going over the different types of angles that we are going to need to know. So the different angle relationships. So this is very, very important for really the rest of the year. So you'll want to make sure you're looking through these and know them by heart within the next few days. So now we are up to page 7. Now you'll have to make sure you thank my TA. One of my old students went ahead and glued these in and folded them for you. So I will go through each of these. Now I am going to give 2 examples of each. So I'll write on here, just in case some of you aren't listening like you're supposed to. I'm going to give 2 examples for each. Now, that does not mean that there's only 2 possible ones. It's just so I'm not doing too many markings on each one. That's how I'm going to show it. So the first one should be the most familiar. We have vertical angles. So I will open this up so you can see a couple examples of vertical angles. So one example of vertical angles could be if I did angle 1, directly across from it would be a vertical angle, angle 3. Another example could be if I were to take, whoops, I accidentally moved that. If I took angle 6 and angle 8, that could be one other example. Now, the main thing to know with this is that vertical angles are congruent.
We are same, but different, but still same.
So you'll notice when you open this fully that there is an example where it wants you to actually solve for a variable. When you get to that, make sure you know when they are congruent, you set them equal. So anytime you see that I say that they are congruent, that means that you are going to set them equal to each other. Next on the list is corresponding angles. So again, I'm going to open it and show you a few examples. So corresponding angles, that was one of the ones from page 3 that I said will make more sense later on. So for instance, angle 1 would go with angle 5. The reason that these are corresponding is because 1 was above this parallel line and on the right side. Well, 5 is above this parallel line and also on the right side. So that would be an example of it. Now, another example could be like, let's say if I went with 3, angle 3, and angle 7. Each of these, so 2 was underneath the parallel line and on the left side, and 7 was underneath this parallel line and on the left side. So that is a couple examples of corresponding angles. Next we have alternate interior. So this is another one from page 3 that'll make a little more sense now that we're showing it. So now we're dealing with alternate interior angles. So alternate is telling us they're going to be on opposite sides of the transversal. And the interior part is saying it's going to be inside of the parallel line. So for instance, 2 would go with 8 because they're on opposite sides of the transversal, the line that cuts through the parallel line. And it is also inside of the parallel lines. So the only other one that we have would be 3 and 5. That's the only other example. Now, I just noticed that I forgot to talk about the one up here.
What an idiot.
And here. Now, nice thing about this though is they are both congruent. So I'm just going to put the symbol for congruent. And if they are congruent, I know that when I go to do these problems, that we are going to set them equal to each other. Next one is very similar to the one we did above it. This one is alternate exterior. So as you might be able to guess, the difference is the fact that it is outside of the parallel line. So I'll go ahead and show you some examples of that. So the first example that I am going to show you for alternate exterior would be like 1 and 7. So alternate is telling us they're on opposite sides of the transversal. And the fact that it's exterior is it's outside of the parallel line. So that would be one example. Angles 1 and 7. The only other option for us would be angle 4 and angle 6. So those two are our only options for alternate exterior angles. Next, we have consecutive interior angles. So consecutive is going to let us know that it's on the same side of the transversal. And interior lets us know it's going to be inside of the parallel line. So let me show you an example of that. All right, so again, we're talking about the consecutive interior. So the first example of consecutive interior would be like 2 and 5. So they're consecutive, they're both on the right side of the transversal. And what makes them interiors are inside of the parallel lines. So the other one that we have, there's only one other option for this, and it would be 3 and 8. So those are the two options we would have for consecutive interior. Now, consecutive interior is is one of the ones that's different from the ones above. All the ones above so far have been congruent. This one is supplementary. So this means that something plus something equals 180. So when you set it up, you know you're going to have to add them and set them equal to 180. We are almost to the end. Now the last one here, consecutive exterior angle. So this one's very similar to the one we just did, except now they're outside of the parallel line. So let me go ahead and show you the two that it can be. So for this one, one of the examples could be 1 and 6. So they both are on the exterior because they're outside of the parallel lines, and they're consecutive because they're on the same side of this transversal. Now the other one that we would want to look at that we could potentially have for this is 4 and 7. So those also would be consecutive exterior angles. So that's the end of this video. I would like you to now do the problems in that foldable. So in the foldable, they give you equations for the different angles and they want you to solve them. So by now, you should know like certain things like vertical angles are congruent, so I know to set them equal. Alternate interior angles are congruent, so I should set them equal as well. Now, the only ones that aren't equal are the consecutive interior and consecutive exterior. Those ones, I would add the two equations together and set them equal to 180. So, again, that's your practice. Make sure you do it. These angle relationships is really stuff we're going to use for the entire year. So you really want to be on top of this. I mean, this unit is called angle relationship, so you want to make sure that you know these.